Let's now review the scripts for creating the most simple kind of animated menus in Flash. Those are menus that are opened and closed by clicking on the buttons. Open up the menu underscore click underscore start file in the work files folder. Here you'll find a timeline with 3 layers. Actions at the top. The actions layer is empty. Then a button layer, and then a background layer. You can actually create as many of these drop-down menus as you want here to create a full navigation system. Double click on the button there, which is actually a movie clip, and you'll notice that this will bring you to another timeline that's a little bit more involved than the main timeline. Here I have again actions layer on the top, number for the menu number. The idea here is you can drag out multiple numbers of these menus and then just change the label right there in the number layer. Then I have the button layer. Then my submenus. Everything is divided into 2 parts, up and down, or expanded and contracted. If you move over to the down position, you'll see that there are additional buttons that pop up underneath it. There's no animation for this first one. It just opens up. Your eye and your brain tends to create the animation for you. It does work. It's not as smooth as the one that contains the animation, but we'll cover that one next. Then there's a rule line in the very bottom. So very, very straightforward. Almost all of the pop-up menus in Flash are created on this model. You can create different kinds of graphics, do different kinds of animation, but the general structure is the same, just moving back and forth between an up and a down. So let's add our first script. Go there to the first frame here in my menu 1. Everything's labeled here, menu 1 movie clip. In the first keyframe there, open up the actions panel and add this script. First you're going to stop the playback head. It isn't entirely necessary, but I like to add those stops just to make sure. Then notice that the menu button is the one that you're adding the event listener to, unlike the previous example where we were just adding the event listener to the stage. Here we're just listening for mouse clicks. Notice that there's the click right there on that menu button right there. Then we're going to run a function called expand menu, which is explained down here in line 2. You can add another line of space between those two, actually between the first line and the second line as well. And then probably add a comment, event listener, here like so. Now when creating your first animated menu from scratch, the place where you'll probably make a mistake is right here. That menu button is referring to the name of this movie clip instance right here on the stage. So let's double check that that is correct by opening up the properties panel, and notice that the name of that button is in fact menu underscore BTN. Keep your names simple and consistent so you can check these really easily. Let's go back to the timeline, and there is my script. Again, let's close the properties panel. So that menu underscore button is probably where you're going to make a mistake. That's where I notice a lot of student mistakes. Now with these 3 lines of code, we're now ready to test this section of the scripting. So let's do a control test movie. What should happen here is that when I click on the menu button, it should open up and give me my expanded version. Now nothing else will happen because I haven't scripted anything else out here. You will also notice that there are button click sounds that I've included with these buttons. Now that we've successfully tested the first portion of the scripting, let's now go and script the second portion. Go back to your main timeline for your movie clip, and this time click on the down frame right there in the actions layer. Open up your actions window. Let's go ahead and add the event listener for the item 1 button. That's the first button right there. Add event listener. Mouse event click. Remember that this whole script is based on mouse clicks. These are the easiest types of mouse events to program for first. Then we're going to do collapse menu is the name of the function. And then function collapse menu, my event, mouse event. The void indicates that that mouse event has not been identified yet. And then go to and stop in the up position. Now the key here is this item 1 underscore button. That's this button right here. It needs to have that exact same instance name. So let's double check that that is in fact named correctly. While we're here, let's go ahead and name the other two buttons, item 3 underscore BTN, and the middle one, item 2 underscore BTN. Now that we have the second part of that script, we're now ready to test that part of it. Notice that I just did the item 1 button first. Go ahead and test movie. It opens up, and sure enough, this is opening up and closing as required. Everything is checking out. Now what we'll do is we'll simply go back and paste in the script for item 2 and item 3. Go to the timeline, click on my layer there, open up the Actions panel. I'm going to go ahead and copy this line 1, right click and then paste, and all I need to do is change the item 1 to item 2 underscore button. Now obviously I could do more than just collapse the menu here when I click on those buttons. I could collapse the menu and do something else by adding more lines here. But you get the idea. You can also add as many event listeners as needed and include functions for each one. So now that I've added that line of code, let's continue our good practice and test the movie. Make sure that everything is working. This time let's click on item 2 and it should collapse the menu. Very good. Item 3 should do nothing, which it does not. Nothing happens there. So there you have all the working scripts needed to get your first simple animated menus scripted up and working. You can find the complete working scripts for this simple animated menu in the menu_click_end file in the work files folder.